further advances by the rebels.
Russia ready to use any means to defend itself, warns Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. Says he hopes the West took Moscow's recent use of a hypersonic missile in Ukraine seriously.
U.S. Weather Service cancels tsunami warning for the West Coast that was issued after a 7-point magnitude earthquake shook parts of California.
Delhi's air average quality remains in moderate category. Schools to resume physical classes after Supreme Court relaxes restrictions.
The deadlock over the 2025 Champions Trophy is all but over. The International Cricket Council, along with boards of Pakistan and India, have reportedly agreed to adopt the hybrid model for global tournaments being hosted in either country.
And our top story on World DNA, in another blow to President Bashar al-Assad's forces, Syrian rebels captured the central Syrian city of Hama just days after seizing the city of Aleppo.
According to Syria War Monitor, the rebels stormed Hama from several sides and engaged in street battles with Assad's forces. That's before announcing the complete takeover of the city. The rebels let off volleys of celebratory gunfire as they entered Syria's fourth largest city. They pledged to advance towards Damascus.
Now, many residents turned out to welcome the rebels, while a giant poster of Assad on the city hall was set on fire. The Syrian army admitted losing control of the city, which is strategically located between Aleppo and Assad's east of power in Damascus. The rebels, led by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, are expected to push on towards Homs, which lies just about 40 kilometers south of Hama.
However, the army said it was redeploying outside the city to reserve and preserve the civilian lives and prevent urban combat. Footage released by Syrian state media showed the government forces fighting the rebels around Hama. Syria's defense minister Ali Abbas insisted that the army's withdrawal was a temporary tactical measure.
The War Monitor said tens of thousands of members of President Assad's minority community are fleeing Homs, heading towards the Syrian coast, fearing the rebel advance.
Furthermore, Syrian rebel chief Abu Muhammad al-Jawlani has urged Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammad Shia al-Sudani to keep his armed forces away from the conflict in Syria.
فكما نجح العراق ونجح السيد محمد شيع السوداني أن ينأى بنفسه عن الحرب التي بين إيران وبين المنطقة في الآونة الأخيرة، فنشد على يده أيضا أن ينأى بالعراق من أن يدخل في أتون حرب جديدة مع ما يجري في سوريا.
And this comes after Iraq's Kataib Hezbollah armed group called on Baghdad to send troops to Syria to support the Damascus government. Iran-aligned Kataib Hezbollah is part of Hashd al-Shabi, an alliance of Iran-backed former paramilitary groups now integrated in Iraq's regular armed forces.
In yet other news, Iraqi Shiite cleric Muqtada Sadr urged his country to stay out of the fighting in neighboring Syria, triggered by a lightning offensive launched by rebels last week.
Meanwhile, Syrians in Aleppo suffer from shortages of essential needs after rebels took over. Bakeries are short on bread, and footage showed people lining for bread and petrol.
And well, for more on this, we are now being joined by Professor James A. Russell from California. He is the Associate Professor in the Department of National Security Affairs at NPS. Welcome to World DNA, Professor Russell.
Thank you.
Now, in less than a week after the rebels took control of Aleppo, they have now captured the city of Hama. Talk to us what happens next if the rebels' incursion is not controlled in time, and where does all this leave the Assad regime, keeping in mind that his allies are already engaged in conflicts in their own countries?
I think you've hit the nail on the head with your last observation. It appears, at least based on the footage we've been seeing on the news these last several days, that we're looking at a repeat of the Taliban's advance in Afghanistan, in which the government forces essentially gave up and ran away. So the question, sort of facing the Assad regime is whether its army is going to stand and fight. And of course, the last time the Syrian civil war was in a higher intensity, kind of mode, you had Iran and Hezbollah and various militias doing a significant amount of the fighting. And Hezbollah, as you have just commented, is on the back foot. It's suffered greatly from the Israelis in the recent war. And it's not clear that the organization is really in a position to render outside assistance. Then you have the Russians, of course, who have their naval base at Tartus, and it's not clear that they really have sufficient forces in place to effect events on the battlefield. So you also have to remember that that Assad, in addition to being supported by outside actors, is supported internally by the Alawites and by the Christians who are fleeing before the Islamist advances, so to speak. So the question is, are these internal groups going to answer the call, so to speak, and get onto the front lines and defend the regime, this brutally repressive regime? And of course, that is an unknown. If the forces continue to melt away, right, I would expect to see the forces driving on to the next city. And they've already effectively divided the country in two at this point. So the Assad regime is under significant pressure here.
And it's really interesting that you mentioned oppressive, because when we look at the visuals when the rebels, they entered Hama, it seemed like the people there, they were clapping and welcoming. Do you think there is a reason for that?
Well, this is, again, Hama, you have to remember that these places were strong sort of Islamist sort of population centers. And of course, they're the site of some of the worst massacres in the early 1980s by the Assad regime against the Muslim Brotherhood. So these places are hotbeds, or were, at least in the past, they were sort of strongly in line with the Islamist forces. Now, so as the advance continues, it's not clear what the attitude of the population is going to be. But certainly, the Islamic and the Sunni Islamist, sort of populations are relieved, of course, to have their the liberators appearing. And it has also to be said that the Islamist groups that comprise these myriad groups that are advancing have attempted to sort of distance themselves from the Al-Qaeda, Nusra Front, Ansar al-Sunnah, sort of vestiges of the past, right? And they're trying to, I think, reach out to many confederational groups, positioning themselves as pragmatic Islamists on the model of Hamas.
Right.
So the politics of all of this, of course, are evolving and difficult to sort of evaluate as the fighting is unfolding. Because you have also to remember that there's other fighting going on between the Syrian National Army, this overtly Turkish entity,
yes, exactly,
with the Kurds in the eastern part of the country, which have been aligned with the United States in the West. And they provided many of the foot soldiers for the fight against ISIL. So it's a real
right,
dog's breakfast, of different groups fighting for different objectives, not all of whom, these groups that is, agree, of course, on political objectives. And this is all going to unfold, I would say, over the the immediate future. Yeah.
Right, Professor Russell, very rapid developments taking place in Syria, and as we are learning right now that the rebels are now moving towards Homs after capturing Hama. But thank you for joining us on WION with your insights on the story.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, in other news, French President Emmanuel Macron has announced that he will name a new prime minister soon.
And this after Michel Barnier resigned following a no-confidence vote in Parliament. The motion was approved by 331 votes, which is far more than the votes required, which is 288. This is the first time a French government has been voted down by Parliament in more than 60 years, a move Macron labelled unprecedented in his 10-minute address to the nation. He accused the far right and hard left for collaborating in what he called an anti-republic front to bring down the government.
Les députés du Rassemblement national ont choisi de voter une motion de censure qui disait le contraire de leur programme, qui insultait leurs propres électeurs. Ce faisant, ils ont simplement choisi le désordre, qui est le seul projet qui les unit à l'extrême gauche, et cela avec la complicité du reste du nouveau Front populaire. Non pas pour faire, mais pour défaire, pour créer le désordre.
Macron thanked Barnier for his dedication during his brief term as Prime Minister and also informed that Barnier and his team will be in charge of current affairs until the appointment of a new government. It is still unclear if the government will be in place before Saturday, when world leaders, including U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, are due to attend the opening ceremony of the rebuilt Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris.
Meanwhile, after the presidential address, French left-wing leader and founder of the France Unbowed Party, Jean-Luc Mélenchon, declared that the no-confidence vote was aimed at Macron and not at Barnier. Mélenchon said that the new Popular Front alliance maintained its pick for Prime Minister, which is the financial crime specialist Lucie Castets, whom Macron previously ignored.
Now, however, Mélenchon added that his party would support a new candidate for the post, even if that is not Castets, as long as they apply the main measures of the left new Popular Front alliance.
Si le prochain Premier ministre applique les mesures pour lesquelles nous avons été préférés, abrogation de la retraite à 64 ans, augmentation des salaires du SMIC, alors on le soutiendra. Sinon, on le combattra. De la vie des assemblées.
Meanwhile, tens and thousands of civil servants demonstrated across France. Demonstrators said that the no-confidence vote was a proof that the French president has not taken stock of what is happening in the country. They criticized the state of hospitals, schools and care homes in France and called for rapid, serious and responsible action from the state. Elon Musk's star power and political clout was on display at the Capitol Hill on Thursday.
The world's richest man and fellow entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy met with legislators behind closed doors to discuss President-elect Donald Trump's plans to cut government spending.
Trump has named Musk and Ramaswamy as co-leaders of the newly created Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. Although the office has a purely advisory role, its influence was clearly visible as Musk and Ramaswamy strode into the Capitol. Republican Speaker Mike Johnson touted a new day in America.
We're all excited. I know you're all excited that Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy have joined us today. This is an important day. It's the beginning of a journey. You've heard what DOGE is all about, the Department of Government Efficiency. It's a new thing, and this is a new day in Washington and a new day in America.
During Trump's election campaign, Musk vowed to reduce federal spending by $2 trillion. This will represent cutting total U.S. spending by a third. Writing in the Wall Street Journal last month, Musk and Ramaswamy laid out plans for the White House to cut staff, trim government programs, and reduce federal regulations, even if it means bypassing Congress, which holds budgetary power. However, some prominent lawmakers on both sides have supported this initiative, highlighting plans to track spending cuts. Even progressive Senator Bernie Sanders agreed with Musk on reducing Pentagon waste.
Mr. Musk, will you answer a question?
Absolutely. What's Doge?
And in other global news, political unrest continues in the country of Georgia.
The opposition parties and their supporters returned for another night of demonstrations against the government's decision to suspend and halt EU membership talks.
Now, thousands of pro-EU supporters took to the streets in Tbilisi for the 8th night in a row. The protesters were seen whistling and waving the Georgian flag as thousands of police personnel stood guard at the parliament.
Today it's dictatorship in Georgia, and me and my friends in my nation gathered here in order to protest this violence and corruption in government, and this is violence which is brutal, and we defend our rights and we can fight against the regime.
We fight for our freedom. And this is a main a fight for us. If we're not going to be the part of the European Union, and if we're not going to be free from the Russian, the oppression, then I don't think that who we're going to be in this world.
Police have used water cannons and tear gas to disperse the demonstrators every night. But thousands returned on Wednesday night, and similar scenes are expected tonight as well. Since Thursday last week, over 300 demonstrators have been detained and at least 100 injured. Police has also raided offices of opposition parties as government intensifies its crackdown on the demonstrators.
Now, as the latest wave of protests enter the second week, the country's prime minister has vowed to eradicate what he called liberal fascism. The leader said, and I'm quoting here, "We will do everything necessary to completely eradicate liberal fascism in Georgia."
Following elections on October 26th, Georgia has been at the epicenter of growing political turmoil. The ruling Georgian Dream Party had claimed victory, but the opposition cried foul and contested the verdict. After returning to power less than 2 months ago, the Dream Party has announced fresh presidential elections and suspended talks on its impending membership bid to join the European Union. The party has repeatedly been accused of being pro-Russia, and its stance has garnered reactions from Western nations, condemning the unrest in Georgia. Pakistan terror kingpin and fugitive jihadist commander of the Jaish-e-Mohammed, Maulana Masood Azhar, has surfaced for the first time in more than 2 decades.
And there is intelligence that he is inside Pakistan. The theme of a recorded address to his cadre remained much of the same: venom against India and criticism of Israel.
Azhar appeared on an online digital forum operated by the Jaish, likely from Bahawalpur in Pakistan, as per the Indian intelligence. The appearance was timed to mark the centenary of the dissolution of the Turkish Caliphate in 1924. In his speech, Azhar vows renewed jihadist operations against India and Israel. He asserts the old war cry of establishment of a new worldwide Islamic order. He also exhorts his audience to join the Jaish-e-Mohammed group, describing to them what he calls a long battle to establish the caliphate.
Now, Indian intelligence says that the address was likely made at the 1,000-acre Jaish seminary and mosque complex outside Bahawalpur in Pakistan sometime late last month. The Pakistan government says it took over the seminary in 2019, but it seems clear that the group continues to operate from the complex. Azhar was taken into what Pakistan calls protective custody in 2016. But in 2022, Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto said that he had escaped to Afghanistan. Pakistan had looked at the time to declare him a proclaimed offender to get itself removed from a watch list of the Financial Action Task Force, FATF.
Masood Azhar is wanted by India for the New Delhi Parliament attack in 2001, the 2016 attack on an Indian army base in Pathankot, and the 2019 Pulwama attack on an Indian army.
All right, before we end this bulletin, here is a roundup of all the climate and weather stories making headlines.
This week on Check It Out, we show you how London's Heathrow Airport is going the AI way. We also give you a sneak peek into what visitors can expect at the Electric Dreams exhibition and find out how AI is helping amateur tennis players become the next tennis legend. All this and much more on WION World is One at these times.
Business Masters is an exciting show, I think, because it not only talks about the company's philosophies around how they have grown, but also how individuals have really used their own philosophy to integrate into businesses. I think this is very useful for anyone who's starting a business, who's running a business, or not just entrepreneurs, but even students and professionals who are wanting to get into business.
Fire.
Pushpa makes a comeback, and we get you everything you need to know about the movie. Dive right into holiday mode with our list of rom-coms. And know rare facts about Britney Spears, aka the Princess of Pop. All this and much more with me, Isha Hanspal, at these times only on WION Club.
Two South African opposition parties asked the country's top court to revive impeachment proceedings against President Cyril Ramaphosa over a scandal where more than $500,000 in cash was stashed in a couch at his ranch and then stolen. Outgoing US President Joe Biden visits Angola, fulfilling a promise made in late 2022 to visit sub-Saharan Africa. It is also Biden's first trip to the continent since becoming president. And designers give new life to second-hand clothing as Ghana's capital drowns in fast fashion waste. That's this week on World of Africa. At these times on WION, World is One.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays, 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
Welcome back. You are watching World DNA with me, Raisha and Jyotsna. There's lots lined up on the show, but first, a quick check on the headlines.
Delhi's average air quality remains in moderate category. Schools to resume physical classes after Supreme Court relaxes restrictions.
South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol ordered arrest of key lawmakers on the night he declared martial law, claims leader of country's ruling party.
Russia ready to use any means to defend itself, warns Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. Says he hopes the West took Moscow's recent use of a hypersonic missile in Ukraine seriously.
Syrian rebels fighting against President Bashar al-Assad's forces capture Hama. Thousands flee country's third biggest city of Homs, fearing further advances by the rebels.
French President Emmanuel Macron rules out resigning, says he will appoint new prime minister in the coming days after government collapse.
The deadlock of the 2025 Champions Trophy is all but over. The International Cricket Council, along with boards of Pakistan and India, have reportedly agreed to adopt the hybrid model for global tournaments being hosted in either country.
Now, Chinese Defense Minister Dong Jun is back in the limelight.
His appearance comes days after a report claimed that he was under investigation for corruption. The Financial Times report had claimed that the top official was under the radar as a part of a wide-ranging anti-corruption operation.
Dong's return comes right after Chinese President Xi Jinping renewed his call for the military to uphold stability and loyalty to the Communist Party. The defense minister appeared in Shanghai at a security forum on the Gulf of Guinea, that is an area off the coast of West Africa.
In a stern response last week, the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Nining described the Financial Times report of China's Defense Minister Dong Jun under probe as shadow chasing.
Dong, a former PLA Navy chief, was appointed defense minister in December 2023. And since last year, the Chinese military has been undergoing a massive anti-corruption crackdown. His predecessor, Li Shangfu, was removed after 7 months into the job. At least 9 PLA generals and few executives from the defense sector have been kicked out of the national legislative body.
Bangladesh is set to erase the image of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, one of the founding figures of the nation, from its currency notes.
Now, according to local media reports, Bangladesh Bank has begun printing new notes with features of the July uprising, a student-led protest that resulted in the ouster of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's government.
The legacy of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the father of Sheikh Hasina, has come under attack since her ouster. The interim government has cancelled several national holidays which are related to Sheikh Mujib, his family and the 1971 war for independence.
Now, recently, a media report said that Mujibur's portrait was taken down from the office. Now, as per the report, new banknotes of Taka 20, 100, 500 and 1,000 are being printed on the instructions of Muhammad Yunus-led interim government.
Bangladesh Bank has said that the new notes could be released in the market within the next 6 months. The central bank and finance ministry officials reportedly said initially that only the design of 4 notes was being changed. However, all types of banknotes will be redesigned in phases without the image of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman.
All right, moving on. Bhutan's King Jigme Khesar Namgyel Wangchuk met Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi.
Well, the King and the Queen are on an official visit to India, accompanied by senior Bhutanese government officials.
The External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar received the royal couple upon their arrival in New Delhi. Jaishankar noted the King's visit will further strengthen the unique bonds of friendship shared by the two nations.
India and Bhutan enjoy unique ties of friendship and cooperation based on mutual understanding and trust. The Ministry of External Affairs said that the visit will provide both the sides an opportunity to review the entire gamut of bilateral cooperation while advancing the partnership across diverse sectors.
Now, the Bhutanese king's visit to India comes in the backdrop of Nepal Prime Minister KP Oli's official visit to China that marked his first visit to a foreign nation since coming to power in July this year.
Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, it is reeling under severe cold wave conditions with temperatures across the region plummeting below freezing point.
Now, the lowest temperature in the region was recorded at Nyoma village in Ladakh at minus 18.3 degrees Celsius. Dras area recorded minus 14 degrees, while Leh town had the season's lowest temperature of minus 9.6 degrees. Zojila, that connects Ladakh region to Jammu and Kashmir, had minus 18 degrees Celsius.
Meanwhile, Kashmir is also witnessing a cold wave. Srinagar had a minimum temperature of minus 2.1 degrees Celsius. South Kashmir has been one of the coldest areas in Kashmir. The tourist resort of Pahalgam recorded minimum temperature of minus 5.3 degrees.
Now, the coldest place in the Kashmir region was Shopian district with a minimum temperature recorded at minus 5.5 degrees Celsius. The Met Department has predicted that winter will be prolonged this year and very harsh in terms of temperature, rains and snow.
In the coldest stretch of 40 days called the Chilai-Kalan period starting December 21st, the La Nina effect is expected to multiply the impact of cold and rainfall in Jammu and Kashmir.
All right, China faces a steep drop in its billionaire count.
The turmoil in its property and financial markets has shaken up the global billionaire landscape with ripple effects that go beyond just the ultra-wealthy.
Now, a new report by UBS reveals a striking trend that the number of billionaires in mainland China has fallen from 520 in 2023 to 427 in 2024. And that is a loss of 93 individuals. This marks a significant 20% decline in the combined wealth of China's billionaires, dropping their total assets to $1.4 trillion, which is down from $1.75 trillion just a year ago.
The main culprit is a struggling property sector and upheaval in financial markets. Real estate, a key wealth driver for many of China's billionaires, they are seeing declining valuations, leaving many entrepreneurs on the edge of the billionaire mark. The report notes that some have fallen to around $800 to $900 million in assets, just shy of the billionaire status.
Now, China's broader economy has also been slowing. UBS highlights several challenges, that is a shrinking private sector, hesitant consumer spending, as well as the ongoing effect of Beijing's regulatory crackdowns. Since 2021, the government's Common Prosperity Campaign has aimed to narrow the wealth gap, but it has also caused wealth creation to stagnate, particularly in industries like tech and education.
The story does not just end there. Billionaires are moving. Since the pandemic, many have reassessed their lives and relocated to new hubs. Top destinations include Switzerland, UAE, Singapore and the US. In total, over 4 years, billionaires representing $400 billion in wealth have immigrated, with West Asia and Africa seeing the biggest influx.
Meanwhile, billionaire wealth is booming elsewhere. In the United States, the number of billionaires has grown from 751 to 835, with their collective wealth soaring by 27.6% to $5.8 trillion. In India, billionaires climbed from 153 to 183, with their combined wealth jumping a staggering 42% to $905.6 billion.
Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell bracketed gold and Bitcoin as speculative assets. This has increased the raging global debate on gold versus Bitcoin as assets with a store of value. Our next report telling you more.
Powell, during the New York Times Deal Book Summit in New York, said people use Bitcoin as a speculative asset. He added, it's like gold, only it's virtual, it's digital. That comment has many market watchers questioning Powell's comments, putting gold and Bitcoin on the same side of the coin. The argument is, how can the chief of the most powerful country's central bank forget that gold for centuries and longer has been the store of value underpinning global currencies? The comments of the head of the issuer of the world's reserve currency is taking the internet by storm. Many question Powell's statement on gold being a speculative asset. Jeroen Blokland, the founder and manager of the Blokland Smart Multi-Asset Fund, in a post on LinkedIn referring to Powell, said, does he really think gold is just a speculative asset? That would be wild. While others say Powell's view is completely understandable, they say one may make the case that gold is primarily an asset for speculation. Simply put, what exactly is a store of value? People need to think that gold is a good investment and that other people share their beliefs for it to function. One might say that gold and Bitcoin are and will always be speculative assets. But that belief might change if, say, a new asset emerges and proves to be a better store of value, like Bitcoin. To put it another way, one is betting that people will keep seeing gold and Bitcoin as safe havens. Even if one presents compelling evidence in its favor, some degree of doubt will remain. To put things into context, Bitcoin has surged past $100,000 for the first time in a chart-busting rally since Trump's win about a month ago. The OG token has surged over 135% this year compared to gold's 35% rise. Trump's election victory triggered a risk-on rally in the digital assets industry. Crypto trading volume surged to $10 trillion for the first time in November. On the other hand, gold prices have fallen as the dollar strengthened, influenced by Trump's rhetoric on the greenback's global role. Since gold does not pay interest, a stronger dollar weighs on the yellow metal's price. Currently, there aren't many investors worried about Bitcoin's future during this honeymoon period. The asset's value has increased from 5 cents in 2010 to $100,000 today. Exaggerated price projections for the OG coin, which were formerly thought to be the stuff of fantasies, are starting to seem more reasonable. Some analysts estimate the OG token price will reach $500,000 or perhaps $1 million. But the naysayers clamor about the risks, and volatility is also on the rise. Business Bureau, WION World is One.
Let us now take a look at the developments coming in from the world of technology. According to a survey titled Switch Off by smartphone brand Vivo, in collaboration with Cyber Media Research, Indian children are more aware of the negative impacts of smartphone use than their parents. The study was conducted across major cities with over 1,500 participants. It was found that 94% of children prefer basic smartphones to avoid social media. Meanwhile, 69% children admitted of getting into conflicts at home because of smartphone addiction. The report also mentions that the daily screen time of parents and children, with the parents averaging over 5 hours and children over 4 hours daily.
A 55-year-old homemaker from Mumbai lost around $300,000 in an online investment scam through WhatsApp. The victim was added to a group where scammers promised quick profits. after making small investments and seeing initial returns. She was asked to pay more money as tax and fees to withdraw her funds. The Indian Cyber Police, they have so far managed to recover around $140,000. This case highlights the growing trend of online scams targeting individuals, especially homemakers and seniors.
The Swiss researchers have created a robot that not only looks like a bird but also moves and flies like one. Named Raven, the bird robot has 2 legs, wings, and a V-shaped tail. The team behind Raven says that the idea for creating a bird-like robot came from their ability to move around crowded landscapes, navigate obstacles, and take off with no runway. There are plans to improve Raven further, including sensors that will allow it to land autonomously. The team believes a scaled-up version of the machine can be used in disaster zones or to access hard-to-reach locations in the future.
The deadlock of the 2025 Champions Trophy, that is now all but it's over. The International Cricket Council, along with boards of Pakistan and India, have reportedly agreed to adopt the hybrid model for global tournaments being hosted in either country.
Now, this decision was finalized after ICC's new chairman, Jay Shah, met the board members, including those from Pakistan, in an informal meeting at the headquarters in Dubai. This essentially means that India will not travel to Pakistan for the Champions Trophy, which begins in February next year. The men in blue will likely play their matches in Dubai, while all other games will be held in Pakistan.
The PCB's acceptance of the hybrid model for the 8-team Champions Trophy is believed to be based on several conditions. One key condition is that the hybrid model should apply to all ICC events played in India until 2031. However, it is reported that the ICC has agreed to a hybrid model for event only until 2027.
Now, during this period, India is set to host 2 ICC tournaments. In 2026, India will co-host the T20 World Cup with Sri Lanka, meaning Pakistan will play all their matches in Sri Lanka. They will also host the Women's World Cup in 2025, and hence Pakistan's cricket team will have to travel to a neutral country for all their matches.
Other conditions are believed to focus on compensation for any potential loss of commercial revenue due to India's Champions Trophy matches, which are being held at a different overseas venue. The PCB had also suggested arranging a tri-nation series involving India, Pakistan and another country to offset any financial loss, but that demand has reportedly been turned down. There's also expectations that further discussions between the 2 boards and the ICC on this issue, with the final decision likely to be made at the board meeting today.
Now, the entire saga has caused a considerable delay in announcing the schedule for the Champions Trophy. In fact, as per the contract between ICC and the broadcasters, the schedule should have been announced at least 90 days in advance, but that deadline has already been breached. All right, and on the occasion of the 100th birth anniversary of the much celebrated late actor Raj Kapoor, RK Films Film Heritage Foundation and the National Film Development Corporation will showcase 10 iconic films of the veteran actor across theaters in India.
Well, titled Raj Kapoor 100, the event has been organized to celebrate the centenary of the man who is considered to be the greatest showman in India. This grand retrospective will showcase a curated selection of Raj Kapoor's movies across 40 cities and 135 cinemas in India from December 13th to December 15th.
The movie tickets for the celebration will be priced at just 100 rupees, that is nearly $1.2. Theaters across India are participating in this tribute.
The festival will showcase Kapoor's most iconic masterpieces spanning nearly 4 decades, including classics like Aag, Barsat, Avara, Mera Naam Joker, Anari, Sharif 420 and many more.
He is also fondly known as the Charlie Chaplin of Indian cinema. In the Hindi film industry, the Kapoors, who came from the family of Raj Kapoor, are considered the first family of Indian cinema. The family has delivered professional actors and directors from each decade in the history of Hindi films.
A festive figurine of Donald Trump known as the Cagnega or Pooper has become a massive hit this holiday season in Spain.
Now, these clay figures depict various celebrities and political figures in a humorous pose. The Cagnor is a long-standing Catalan custom believed to bring good luck and fertility to the land when placed among the nativity figures. We leave you with this report, and that's all on World DNA today. Thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned.
This week on Check It Out, we show you how London's Heathrow Airport is going the AI way. We also give you a sneak peek into what visitors can expect at the Electric Dreams exhibition and find out how AI is helping amateur tennis players become the next tennis legend. All this and much more on WION World is One at these times.
Two South African opposition parties asked the country's top court to revive impeachment proceedings against President Cyril Ramaphosa over a scandal where more than $500,000 in cash was stashed in a couch at his ranch and then stolen.